Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. AEW got us all set up for this Saturday's Full Gear, and they put the pedal to the metal and hit the ground running pretty hard as this show ended with a really hot, really wild, really kind of overbooked segment. And though this was a very good go-home show and they did a couple of things completely right, they did do a couple of things absolutely wrong, and we're here to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's AEW Dynamite on TNT Review. Let's do it. I know you guys enjoyed tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite if you watched it, and if this is your first time here at the channel watching my AEW Dynamite reviews, it's important to preface this with the very important statement that I'm not just an AEW fanboy. Sure, I'm wearing my Cody Rhodes Elite Rhapsody t-shirt right now, and there's a specific reason for that, but I don't just kiss and drool and stroke off all over AEW. We look at this show with the same set of eyes that we judge the WWE with. So when AEW gives us a go-home show with two very WWE-like mistakes, I struggle to sit here and just be all positive and all rainbows and pancakes and New Day nonsense. Right? That's not what this show is all about. It's time to bring the hammer down on AEW Dynamite for two glaring errors. The first of which is how they decided to book the women's champion Riho tonight. The second is the wild ending. Sure, it was exciting and it was a whole bunch of great action and it was really, really wild and chaotic. And we had the brawl to go off the air, and we're setting up the Elite versus the Inner Circle, and that's all cool, I get that. But I feel like they went to that way too quickly. I think they're seeing the NXT invasion happening, and they want to be in the same light as that. You know, well, we're going to have our own brand warfare thing going on. We got the Inner Circle versus the Elite in AEW. We could combat that by doing a very similar thing. So we had this big old brawl at the end, which is very similar to what we've seen on Monday Night Raw this week, and it was just a little bit underwhelming to me. And consider just 1 minute, I'm not just here to bitch and moan all about AEW, you stupid WWE mark. No, man, I'm here to offer you guys an alternate solution, which is the better way to have gone about this show, is to have that all spread out through the show. Imagine for a second, the show opens up with Pac defeating Trent of the Best Friends, and take all the unnecessary orange-colored bullshit out of it. You could have had Jon Moxley come out and do something here, where it matters. You got Moxley been brawling with Pac lately. You could have had him there and starting to brawl with Pac, and then you could have had Kenny Omega come out and do all of that and get that storyline started right there and kick off the show really hot with a really popular storyline and everything that's going on there. And then you could go on and have Cody Rhodes make his tremendous announcement with his awesome promo and have the show go off the air the exact same way, but maybe instead of having Pride and Proud or whatever they're called, my buddies Santana and Ortiz, instead of having them part of this big old brawl that really should have closed the show with our eyes focused on the AEW Championship match instead of everything that's happening, they should have came out at the end of the tag team matchup. Once Private Party won this evening, they should have hit the ring, they could have attacked, and then you could have had the Young Bucks come out and make the save, and now you told that story leading into Full Gear completely separate. But the problem is this whole entire thing, by the way they ended it leading into the pay-per-view, is not really about the AEW Championship. Sure, the AEW Championship matchup between Rhodes and Jericho is in this mix, but they're turning it into something else. And really, right now, as you're starting to build your company and want to place emphasis on how important that championship is, which you did a good job of with the Cody Rhodes promos, you ended this show tonight being an overbooked, nonsensical brawl that pretty much happened for no apparent reason. When this show should have went off the air as Cody Rhodes stood over Chris Jericho holding the AEW Championship. Cut and fade to black. It would be just as intense. Is that what we're going to be seeing come Saturday? Is Cody Rhodes going to make good on his promise? Is Chris Jericho going to suffer his first defeat? All right there. All without all of the extra added, which was really unnecessary. You could have had it sprinkled throughout the entirety of the show, and it would have come across much better. And you could have start leading up to your next level War Games type scenario, whatever it is you got planned for the Elite versus the Inner Circle, when Full Gear is over. And you start to build towards the next show, which is undoubtedly going to feature something along the lines of that. It is Survivor Series season. In the world of professional wrestling, it would be pretty interesting to see the AEW side of things try to pull off something similar. I don't really like that idea. I think that all of this mimicking of the WWE in certain ways and worrying about what the other company may or might not be doing is just making everything negative. We don't need another WWE. And while the in-ring quality on this night is leaps and bounds above what we get on a Monday or a Friday, you can't forgive some laziness or some weirdness in the storytelling, which is what we got tonight. The second mistake, as I was talking about, most importantly, and it is even a bigger mistake than what they did with Cody Rhodes and everything that we were just discussing, is what they did with the women's division. This screams Vince McMahon. This is not new and original ways to get your girls over. First and foremost, and this is no slight on any of the girls in this matchup, as I stated, the in-ring action between the women was fantastic, far above and beyond anything you will see any of the girls do in the WWE. And the matchup in its own right was entertaining. I was actually impressed with the performance of Shanna tonight. I thought she looked fantastic. I thought Jamie Hayter looked pretty damn good. But I'm struggling. I'm struggling to connect with the women in the division in AEW, and I don't know why that is, and I don't want this to come off sounding as a racial thing because it's certainly not the case, and I do compare these girls to each other quite often, but I think what has happened here is that I have been exposed to an Asuka. I have been exposed to Kairi Sane. I have been exposed to an Io Shirai and a Meiko Satomura and some of the other Asian females that the WWE has brought to the table first. And they're just more charismatic. There's just something about them. I immediately gravitated to them, not because they were Japanese wrestlers or not because they were from the indies, but there was some sort of a specialness to Asuka. And Io Shirai, of all of them, was the one that was kind of under the radar. You know, Kairi Sane came out. She was the pirate princess. Like, she had this whole gimmick, and it made her special. And Io Shirai, now with the change and the heel turn, she's special, and she's easy to connect with. How am I connecting with Rio? She looks like just an alternate version of a Kairi Sane to me, and not facially or whatever, but because of their style and just the way she presents herself. It's a very similar outfit. All she needs is a pirate hat and a steering wheel. And maybe it's not fair for me to compare, but that's my underlying comparison. Look at what we got out of these girls tonight. As far as in-ring is great, but then look at Emi Sakura. She's coming out. Sakura, I'm sorry, that's not her name, is it? I always screw up the names because there's always so many, and I'm sorry. I might have even said it right. Who knows? Let me get back. You know, I did. Emi Sakura. See, I second-guessed myself. I shouldn't have even done it. But listen, she came out dressed up like Freddie Mercury tonight. She came out with the mustache and the band jacket and the microphone. And I'm like, what the hell is she doing? What am I watching here? Why? I'm glad she took the mustache off before the match started, I'll tell you that much. But the match didn't matter how entertaining it was. Didn't matter who impressed me. Didn't matter what was the final outcome. Because the one thing to take away from it is AEW had the challenger pin the champion in a tag team match, leading into their encounter coming up at the pay-per-view in just 4 days. That is inexcusable. I would not be fair, and I would not be everything I claim to be if I sat here and was like, oh, no, this is okay, and then turn around and tell you the complete opposite every time I review every other show, no matter what 3 letters come before it. When you're pinning your champions to establish the dominance of your challenger, then you are doing a terrible job at telling me why Emi Sakura needs to have another match with the champion Riho. Why, because she dressed up like Freddie Mercury? So you decide she's going to get the pinfall tonight? You're going to have her pin the champ's shoulders to the mat to sell the drama. You needed to give a loss to Riho? Why? As I'm sitting here watching this match unfold, I'm just waiting for either Shayna or Jamie Hayter to be the one to take the pinfall in this matchup to progress the story, because the champion or challenger could end up on a losing team without it being the fault of their own, which shouldn't be the case. She's only just won the championship. She's already got 1 loss to her credit, Riho. Why did you have her lose tonight? You think she's that over with the crowd and that popular already that she could be suffering losses? She is your champion. She should be being protected. That belt should be being protected. Instead, you got her being beaten by her challenger only days before. Why? So that when we get to the pay-per-view, Riho could be victorious and get her win back? Are we doing 50-50 booking here? This whole entire thing was unnecessary, especially when there were 2 completely qualified athletes in the same match that could have taken the pinfall. This was the biggest thing that I disagreed with on this night. It's one of the things that are going into heavy consideration for this week's edition of the Pope Hammer, which you will find out about on Saturday night. We have yet to watch NXT, so I have no idea what they're bringing to the table, but as far as tonight's concerned, I can definitely see myself giving the Poop Hammer to AEW Creative as a whole, just for pulling this bullshit on me and making me feel like it's Monday instead of Wednesday, which should be the most glorious day of wrestling that we all should enjoy from start to finish. I shouldn't be sitting here shaking my head asking why. And I'm sure some of you guys were feeling the same way. And if you weren't, shame on you. How could you be okay with that? Is Emi Sakura that important of a women's wrestler? Like, I don't know. I don't follow these girls on the independents. I don't watch Stardom or any of the stuff that comes out of the women's world of professional wrestling. I don't have time. I don't even have time for AEW Dark, which is a garbage show, apparently. But I don't understand it. I will never understand it. That is such a cheap, lazy way. Lazy. I'm probably sleazy is what I meant to say. But my God, man. Awful. Awful stuff as far as the women's division is concerned. And since we're going down this road of me complaining, let me just get one last little complaint out of the way, which is the fact that tonight's main event was almost a repeat, a rematch, if you will, of a match we seen 2 weeks ago on Dynamite. Sure, there was Dustin Rhodes instead of Kenny Omega, but we had a tag team matchup featuring the AEW champion and Sammy Guevara, a grown-ass man who looks like he's 14 years old in a land of giants. A guy that much like what I was talking about with the women's division, I can't find a way to connect to Sammy Guevara. I just don't understand. He comes across to me as exactly the same as all of these other flippy-dippy AEW guys. He's tough as nails. He took a nice little beating tonight, but it's also very clear to me that his involvement in these main events is only to pull the workload so that Jericho can stand outside the ring talking about drinking the bubbly. He looks like a boy in a man's world. And it looks even worse when he's standing next to a 48-year-old world champion as his tag team partner. It's very off-putting. And then you put them against Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Now, if AEW is listening to this podcast, which I highly doubt, but it is quite possible, I had made mention that I enjoy Page and Omega as a team. And I continue to enjoy that. I think they complement each other very well. There's just something about them paired up as a tag team that really just gets my wrestling juices going. I think they work. I think they would work. You give them a good team name, you get them together, you give them a good run, and then you break them up and you have an epic feud between them, just like we did with the Rockers way back in the 80s, and that's how you take these guys to the next level in the public eye. Because not everybody sees them the way you might see a Kenny Omega. Much like myself. I still have my doubts. There's still much to prove. I don't need to see repetitive move after repetitive move in all these matches. And tonight they did a good job of not doing that. But it was in essence a rematch of what we seen a couple of weeks ago. They're already going back to doing things twice. Or doing things again, rather. And all of this was for what? For them to have this big brawl? To intertwine all of the active storylines that anybody gives a shit about? I don't get it. I don't get it. Why Hangman Page couldn't have attacked Pac at the beginning of the show instead of being involved in this main event? Why they had to have this tag team match again? You could have very easily just had it be Sammy Guevara versus Adam Page with Chris Jericho at ringside with Jake Hager. And it probably would have given you the same exact effect. You could have had the same exact finish, and it wouldn't have been a repeat of something we've already seen. But there was a lot of good stuff on this show as well. Let's stop being so negative and harping on some of the stuff that pissed me off. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite's go-home show for Full Gear, live from Wrestling City, Charlotte, North Carolina. We had Pac defeating Trent, who had the best friends by his side, which was a very, very good singles match. Orange Cassidy's interference wasn't appreciated by me. Chucky T and the way he decided to keep the referee distracted so Orange Cassidy could stand there like a sloth and to pretend to throw kicks and the crowd go fucking bananas. And I don't understand it. Give me some of these bananas that you guys are eating, or these oranges. Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? Give me something. Give me something. Don't give me this. I'm tired of seeing this already. The guy comes in there, he gives his 3 little kicks, and now tonight he got his ass kicked before he went and did his stupid no-handed tope. And while we're talking about the tope, I know we said we were going to get positive, but hey, listen, it is what it is. If you're going to have somebody do a tope suicida or a tope through the ropes in every single matchup on the night, I don't care about any of them. Does that make sense? Do you guys feel the same way? If I'm watching Private Party flying over the top rope, I'm watching Trent Beretta fly over the top rope, I'm watching the Young Bucks fly off of things, everybody's flying off of shit, then it's not special when anybody flies off of shit and does the same move 100 times a night. Just throwing that out there for you guys, because it's what I see, and the hammer comes down. This match was very good, but a bit predictable. Take out the orange-colored nonsense, as I said earlier. But if you think for 1 minute that Trent was going to beat Pac while he's getting set to go to Full Gear to fight Adam Page, you're out of your mind. Which is why the Adam Page not coming out to appear during this whole thing just didn't make sense. Pac had his little promo after the match. He beats Trent as everybody knew he was going to. There was no furthering of anything that was going on between him and his opponent or what was his storyline. It was just his promo. And then on we went. On we went. Pac is involved with Page. He's involved with Moxley. This could have very easily been done better. Cody Rhodes has an interview with Tony Schiavone that might go down as the best wrestling interview in at least the last 10 years. I don't think since CM Punk dropped his pipe bomb, famously all those years ago, that I sat and intently listened and laughed aloud and felt pride and felt proud of Cody Rhodes for what he was saying. And everything he said was 100% genuine, and everything he said was 100% right. He said the Inner Circle has been almost surgical in their attack on the Elite. And then he started to talk about guys like Bill Watts and Dusty Rhodes. And talk about how This isn't really about them. Chris Jericho wants to talk about them, but it's not about them. And when he hears the criticisms that his father once got, and that guys like Bill Watts once got, that the fact that Cody Rhodes owns AEW and is now wrestling for a championship, it does kind of look weird. We have said on the outside that I was surprised they were going to do this so quickly. I thought Cody would allow the company to establish itself on the back of Chris Jericho for a much longer time before we were here in this predicament, thinking that Cody Rhodes is going to take the title because he owns the company and maybe they want to go in a different direction because Jericho's not really spiking the rating. Like, you start thinking all these things that you didn't think you were going to be thinking come November. And he has a point with everything that he says. And he says, most importantly, that if he does not defeat Chris Jericho at Full Gear for the championship, he will never put himself or earn even another shot at that AEW championship. That is huge. That is huge. This is a one and done for Cody Rhodes. If he does not win the championship now, Cody Rhodes will never be AEW champion. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure how I would feel about that. I certainly don't believe AEW is going to be making the change that quickly. But we're going to have to tune in Saturday to find out. This promo was fantastic. It was really only getting started off of that. He was talking about everything he was proud of in AEW. The schedule, the pay, the freedom. That this is a place where wrestlers are free. And the crowd was eating it up. They were alive and they were taking in every single one of Cody's words like it was gold. And it was. He was fired up. He then wanted to talk about all of the things that Chris Jericho has been saying. He's been calling the fans a bunch of millennial bitches. He called Cody Rhodes his millennial bitch. And Chris Jericho was talking about Cody and his privileged upbringing, being the son of the famous Dusty Rhodes. And then Cody Rhodes very accurately points out that Chris Jericho, you stupid dick, had the same exact upbringing. Chris Jericho was the son of a New York Ranger, a very famous New York Ranger, and he grew up with money. He grew up with the same silver spoon that Cody Rhodes grew up with, and he called him a stupid dick and just went whole next level with it. The intensity, the ferocity, the fact that he almost got choked up when he started talking about the fact that this isn't for Dusty. This isn't for anybody. This is for people like his mom, people like his sister, people like his wife and his family. And he promised the world that he is going to eat the inner circle alive. This was easily the best promo of the year, if not over the last friggin' 10 years. It was a goosebump-inducing, spine-tingling road down Cody's brain, man. And it was just, this is what he's feeling, and he's just so fired up. And now it really raises the stakes even more because he put that opportunity to get that championship on the line in a way that you don't see anybody ever do. If he does not win, he will never challenge for it again. And we're just getting started with AEW. That's going to be a long time to never be able to be champion. And I got to give him props for doing it. I don't know where it's coming from, but man, that was some high quality stuff. Very passionate, very, very skirting the lines of reality. And that's what I like. And that was absolutely perfect. Another thing that was perfect was this tag team matchup that they had tonight. This is a great idea. I love what they did here. AEW just had a much well-received tag team championship tournament. We did have two losing teams in the semifinals. So what they decided to do was make a bronze medal match. Fantastic idea. To see who were the top three teams in the tournament. And to make it even further, and make it even more important, the winner of this match and the winner of this bronze medal will be inserted into the triple threat AEW Tag Team Championship matchup at Full Gear this Saturday. That's fantastic! I love that. That is so logical. When you're trying to build a tag team division, well, you got the guys that won the tournament, they're number one. You got the runners-up, they're definitely number two. We want to have a triple threat. Who would be the number two contender behind the number one contender? Well, there's only one way to find out. You take the two teams that lose, you put them head-to-head, and that's what they did here tonight. This was great. I loved it. I don't love the Dark Order. You guys that watch this show, you all already know that. I have personal reasons for that, which we will not get into. I don't like copycats. I've been seeing a lot of that going on, but hey, listen, it is what it is. Nothing is really yours in wrestling, whether it's your gimmick or whatever. Somebody's going to copy you, right? But this whole Dark Order thing, aside from my personal grudge, I don't get it. I don't get the relationship between Grayson and Evil Uno. I don't know why they're teams. Why they're a team, rather. I don't know why he has minions. I don't know what the hell is going on with this team. And the only thing I could be grateful for is that they didn't win this matchup. The best part about this matchup is that my good friends Private Party took the victory here. They earn a spot in this triple threat matchup on Saturday, and now it's setting up to be probably the best match AEW's ever had. The Lucha Brothers versus SCU versus Private Party is going to be a tag team triple threat match you certainly don't want to miss. I only hope that the Lucha Brothers don't no-sell everything so that I don't have to bring the hammer down on a match that I'm very much looking forward to. But Private Party defeats the Dark Order, and this was great. The Inner Circle produced a hype video for Chris Jericho that made it ultimately clear that Chris Jericho is not taking things as seriously as Cody Rhodes is, not even one bit. This was a laugh riot type of promo. It was so funny. It was very well done. Chris Jericho seems aloof of the whole situation. He don't even care. He's just trying to figure out what kind of bubbly he's going to be drinking on when the match is over. Some towns, it's very hard to get the bubbly that you need, apparently. This was great. Even Sammy Guevara in this promo was great. We had Virgil, the $1 Million Man's Virgil, with his new name, Soul Train Jones, talking about how driven Chris Jericho has been, and saying that Chris Jericho is like Olive Garden breadsticks. His power is like Olive Garden breadsticks. Unlimited. There's a lot of really great stuff. Sammy Guevara says Chris Jericho's the youngest AEW champion of all time. We all know he's been the only one, but that's just funny. That was just funny to me. They kept showing Jake Hager, who had nothing to say. He was just staring at the camera. You were waiting for him to say something, but nothing would come. One of my favorite parts was Patricia Bobsky. You know Jericho gave her that name, which is Chris's aunt's childhood friend from church. Bobsky says that Cody is going to get the shit beat out of him by Chris Jericho. She said that. She said Chris Jericho will beat the shit out of Cody Rhodes. Coming out of the mouth of this sweet little old lady, you can't help but laugh. Then Chris Jericho closed out this promo talking about how it's tough to carry the weight of how great he is, but he does it anyway because he is Le Champion. This was fantastic. This was hysterical. This was a great way to tell you guys Chris Jericho don't give a damn about Cody Rhodes. And coming off of that fiery hot promo, you see they're both looking at this match from completely different aspects, and it's going to make it very interesting. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. I don't know if Cody Rhodes is going to win, at least maybe just for one night, and then lose it back to Jericho on Dynamite, which is something that WWE would do, so I don't want to see them fucking do that. But there's a big part of me that don't want to see Chris Jericho continue to be the champion, and most of you guys understand why that is, and we're not going to get back into it because I don't want to hear it from you guys anymore. I feel how I feel about Jericho, and that's not going to change. And while I understand his name value, I don't understand the need for him to be the champion. 48 years old, looks like a Mack truck. This guy looks like the creepy uncle of every single wrestler in the ring. But I love this segment. We're not gonna get down on Jericho too much. I know you guys hate when I do that, and I'm sorry. But if I'm not honest with you, then I'm not being fair. I gotta tell you guys my feelings. You don't have to agree with them. But I'm gonna be honest. Or else why even fucking do this? Why am I gonna sit here and just lie to you guys? Oh yeah, everything's so great. I love everything. I love everybody. No, man. That would be the stupidest show ever. But that title's already being held by Monday Night Raw. Anyway, let's move along. Emi Sakura and Jamie Hayter defeated Shayna and Riho. We already discussed why I hate the shit out of this matchup. It doesn't matter how good it was. It doesn't matter that Shayna impressed me. It doesn't matter that Hayter impressed me. All that matters is they pinned the champion to gain momentum for their challenger 4 days out from their championship matchup for seemingly no reason. They had no reason to be in this matchup. You could have gave us Bea Priestley versus Britt Baker. You could have gave us any of the other girls on the roster. I'm far more interested and far more invested in what's going on with Brandi Rhodes. I can connect with Brandi Rhodes. I already have an existing connection to Awesome Kong. What is she bringing to the table? I don't want to see Aja Kong. I want to see Awesome Kong. But again, even Aja Kong. What is she doing tonight? Why couldn't she go out there and lose to Emi Sakura to make her look like a threat going into her match against the champion? And you have Riho watching in the back. There's an alternate scenario for you again that would have been leaps and bounds better than seeing the champion lose on national television. Terrible decision making. Vince-like in every way. The matchup, as far as in-ring action was concerned, like I told you guys already, was very good. But the other thing about this match was that it just went on for a little bit too long. I found myself getting bored, even though the action picked up, and it was kind of like, peaks and valleys with this matchup, and towards the end, I just started to not really care, and then they pinned the champion, and it just went off the rails for me. I almost wanted to change the channel, and for the first time since doing this, I really actually wanted to change the channel to NXT with the whole invasion thing going on. But we didn't do that. Shawn Spears showed up tonight, and he defeated Brandon Cutler. This was a very quick squash match, which has become the norm for Brandon Cutler. We've seen him lose to MJF already. Now he's losing to Shawn Spears, and all of this was nothing more than a lead-up to some sort of confrontation between Spears and Joey Janela. Joey Janela ran out and attacked Shawn Spears after he was victorious in this matchup and was going to continue his attack on Cutler. Janela runs out, makes the save. Spears runs away before he really gets any sort of comeuppance, and then they just kind of stare each other down. This is also coming off the back of an AEW Dark segment where apparently Shawn Spears tried to rip out Joey Janela's tongue with a set of pliers. Okay, so on we will go. Hopefully this starts to pick up speed and we'll start to see some interesting things happen. Maybe it'll bring my interest up into Joey Janela. Maybe it'll make Shawn Spears look like he made the right decision in going to AEW, because since he's been in AEW, aside from having Tully Blanchard as his manager and having a couple of good matches, he hasn't really been much of a presence so far, and maybe this will change going forward from here, having some sort of a program in the works with a guy that they love like Joey Janela. It's a good way to get yourself featured on TV. Another good way to get featured on TV is to be in great hype promos, just like the one we got for Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. This match is brimming at the rim and it is ready to explode. The only thing I have to criticize about this is with the way they're building it up. They're going to almost have no choice but to really, really go all out, no pun intended, with their hardcore element of this matchup. And that's not particularly the style I enjoy the most. While it can be entertaining when used effectively, when you go a little bit overboard, which I feel these guys almost have to do now, there's probably going to be, light tubes and barbed wire tables, and maybe something's going to be set on fire, and I'm going to feel like I'm watching a Cactus Jack Vader match from back in 30 years ago. But I didn't enjoy any of that stuff all that much as well. Some of you guys might look back at that and go, oh, that's some of the greatest wrestling stuff of all time. But that's not really wrestling. It's just brawling and scarring yourself for the enjoyment of others, where I prefer a little bit more wrestling in my wrestling. But who knows? Maybe I'm the crazy guy. Hardcore stuff is a thing. If you're a hardcore guy, you're one of those fans that, you're open to watching backyard wrestling, or you'll go watch any couple of guys call it a death match and see them on exploding mats and all kinds of razor wire and stuff like that. That's not me, man. That's not me. And I feel like this is the direction this match almost has to go, especially following all the words that Moxley's been spewing out of his mouth. Kenny Omega's talking about being happy that we're going to a dark place. This match is supposed to be so violent that it's not going to be sanctioned. It's a lights out match, which I still don't understand that. They're going to turn off the fucking lights. They're going to turn the lights back on, and now what? Now it don't count? Like, I don't understand. We're going to dim the lights and turn them back on. It's a lights out match. Certainly could think of a better way to, better name for this matchup, because it doesn't really fit for what's going on. Lights out match means we turn out the lights, these two guys are going to fight in the dark, and let's see what happens when it's all said and done. But that's no way to have a wrestling match in front of a live crowd or in front of a television audience. So it's not what they're going to do. I don't get that. Lights out. Only lights out is going to be whoever loses that match. Their lights are going to be out. Hopefully they don't suffer any real irreparable damage by the time they end up murdering each other when this is all said and done. But other than that, it's going to end up probably being one of the most talked about matches of the night when things are all said and done, when Saturday comes to a close and Full Gear is finished. The main event of the evening, like we already complained about, was a almost rematch from a previous episode of AEW Dynamite, only subbing out Dustin Rhodes for Kenny Omega and having this matchup exist only to lead into a big, gigantic brawl. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara defeated Kenny Omega and Hangman Page prior to this ridiculous brawl, and it was just a little bit too much. It was a little bit too much. If not for the interference of Pac, this whole thing might have gone down a different way. Chris Jericho hits the Judas effect on Hangman Page and then pins Hangman Page for the victory. After the match, the Inner Circle continued to beat down on Hangman Page. Cody Rhodes comes in for the save quite predictably, and like I said, once he got the uppercut on Guevara and Jericho and Hager were out of the ring and backing up the ramp, he should have had the belt. He should have picked up the belt, stared Chris Jericho with daggers in his eyes, holding Le Champion title, and off the air we should have went, leading you into Full Gear. But instead, we get MJF coming out, once again being wasted. Oh, but he's Cody's best friend, Mr. Nightmare. He's also the greatest heel on the AEW roster and has been failing to be used in that light to put over Cody Rhodes, who's already over, and I don't get it. Oh, but it's going to lead to a great heel turn. What fucking heel turn? He's already, like I said, the biggest heel in the company. Maybe the best heel in all of wrestling right now. It's a heel turn. This is stupid. I hate his involvement in this whole thing. Oh, but they're blurring the lines of reality like you like. Yeah, but not when they sacrifice a fantastic character that would be just printing money for this company. You want to gain viewers? Get MJF on the screen doing what MJF does, not being Cody Rhodes' little lapdog best friend buddy with a scarf on. No. And then we had Santana and Ortiz coming out. Oh, Moxley's coming out with a barbed wire bat. He's facing off with Kenny Omega, but nothing really happens there. Next thing you know, we got the Young Bucks coming out. They're climbing on the set. They're jumping off, doing dives, taking out everybody. Everything's getting crazy. They get everything separated, only for the Bucks to charge back in. Once again, they continue brawling and on and on and on and on and on until the show went off the air. Some of you guys are probably hot and excited about that ending. You think it was so great. It was so intense. Oh my God, it's so great. It's going to be so good. Full Gear's going to be great. What did any of that really have to do with Full Gear? Nothing. They're already building up this match beyond, or whatever they want to call it, for after Full Gear. But they shouldn't be falling into the trap of looking too far ahead. And hopefully they're not really watching what's going on in Connecticut, because that's not where you should be taking notes from. That's what you should be struggling to be completely different from. It's bad enough you already have some of their former superstars. You need to not be the same show. Just because your wrestling quality is better doesn't mean you can give me the same bullshit storytelling and I'm going to forgive you, because that's not what we do here on the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your AEW Dynamite review. Did I enjoy this show? Might not sound like it to you, but overall, yes. This was a quality wrestling show. It was a decent go-home show with a few glaring mistakes, but that's to be expected with a brand new wrestling company who's struggling to do everything in their power to get their full gears going and start to really etch out a place in the professional wrestling world. The ratings have continuously, but slowly, but continuously, which is the concerning part, they have been declining. And now there's no World Series going on. There's nothing to blame for anything. There's only NXT head-to-head with them tonight. And it'll be interesting to see how everything turns out when we get set to do the head-to-head review this Saturday, when we decide who won the week. And in order to do that, I have to go and watch NXT, which is what I am going to do right now, so that I can fire out that review to you guys as usual Thursday night. We missed it last week because of the Clown Fools pay-per-view, so we had to sacrifice NXT for 1 week. Luckily, really not much happened other than the announcement of the first ever female War Games. But we'll see what they have to do when I go watch it as we finish out closing the show. So thank you guys so much for being with me here again. We are comfortably over 2K. We are in that 2,100 mark already, which I can't thank you guys enough. The growth on this channel has been great. Let's keep that train rolling. And if you had a good time today, if you agree with my criticisms over AEW, you can still love them. I'm not saying you have to hate them. You can love AEW and still just point out some of the things they do wrong. That's what I do to the WWE every week. Why can't I do it to AEW in the same manner? But you guys can continue to watch me do that by hitting that subscribe button right now. Join one of the over 2,000 plus that know when you want your wrestling news, with a lot of fun, with a lot of cool opinions, a lot of alternate scenarios, not just a bunch of screaming and yelling into the microphone and saying things that make you uncomfortable certain times. We do it the right way. We do it with fun, we do it with enthusiasm, and we bring the hammer down like nobody else on YouTube. So join the family right now. Join the Sledgeheads and my army here at the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show by hitting that subscribe button right now. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing coming at you guys going forward. Smash that like button if it made you laugh, if it made you cry, if it made you hate everything, if it made you love everything. Hit that like button for me right now. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if you need to educate them on the mistakes that AEW made tonight. Even though we all enjoyed the show, it's important to point out mistakes so that historically you don't make them twice. That's the whole point. My name, ladies and gentlemen, is Nick Nightmare. This is the Team Thor, the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you. That, my friends, is going to do it, and we are out of here. And we'll see you tomorrow for the NXT review right here on your new favorite show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Dynamite.